and welcome back. In the last episode of the show, the party dealt with those pesky little satyrs that we had rolled up as a random encounter. The party managed to save the woodsman named Joel, who was forced to do the boogie for quite a lot of hours. The party themselves succumbed to this magic as well, making for a less than heroic saving. But in the end, the party continued to explore the area, discovering a river, a wellspring, and managed to make their way back to the coast. The party traveled back over to Valley Dar. They had come to an agreement with Joel that he would join the party as a retainer, working under Zion. And the party then decided they would head out again. The party headed out again and discovered an abandoned village that was, well, I guess it wasn't entirely abandoned, for a giant drove of skeletons were infesting the place. Unfortunately, as they thought they would be safest staying in the inn for the night, spending the night here in the ruins, hoping to further explore them in the morning, party ran into an encounter, had to fight a bunch of the skeletons, and unfortunately, they succumbed to quite a few losses, including the death of Joel, who lasted a record 1 episode, as well as Barine, who unfortunately died as well. The party now are stuck in this tavern, and we're trying to figure out what it was that was behind the spooky skeletons. So let's go talk about what everybody suggested we do for this episode. So let's go back to the basement, shall we? Okay, welcome back to the table. Ooh, lava lamp's just activating. We have officially reached the point of chill. It seems we left off on a note where we need to figure out what is actually happening in this little village that we found. So let's go ahead and figure that out. I had opened this up to a couple Facebook groups. I also opened up in the comment section in the last video. So I'm going to go ahead and bring us to the table here with a brief summary of the options available for what could possibly have caused this skeletal insurgence. Don't worry about it. And let's roll to see which one it is. So, come on over here. Okay, so I laid out this list of things, and, well, we got 7. I did omit a couple of them, mainly for story reasons, 1 for AI. Now, just as a note, I know everybody loves to get an AI soapbox. I've used AI in the past for some personal projects, but for something like this, I really would like the authenticity of suggestions to not involve AI, because like at that point, I could just do the AI myself. I got nothing but love for anybody who wants to offer me suggestions, and I love that somebody was able to, comment and send me something at all, but again, I'd like this to be the creativity of my audience, you know what I mean? So, that aside, these are the 7 that I've gotten, and they're horrifically shortened, and there's 7. So, let's deal with this real quick. I'm going to give a lot more detail than just Skelly Civ when the time comes, if we get something like that. So, let's see what we get. So, I'm going to roll a d8. I'll re-roll on on an 8, or perhaps I might double it up. We'll see what happens. Okay, so a 3 gives us Skelly Pirates. Okay, so right now I'm going to just catch you up to speed with what the original post was. The original post came from this guy. I'm going to put at least a little blurb of him right there. I'm going to bleep out some stuff. Brett gave me this in a post on the Old School Essentials Facebook page. So if you want to get involved, I do post over there pretty much every time I put out a new episode. So if I do open up for suggestions, which hopefully we'll find something to open up for suggestions in this episode, I'll send it over there and you guys can join in. So yeah, and it's a really good community over there too. So feel free to join in just for that reason alone. But okay, so let's take Brett's idea and let's flesh it out a little bit. So with editing magic, I'm going to just write out some of his ideas and... Okay, cool. Excellent editing. So, I know it's a little dense and my handwriting is god-awful, but let me read some of this off for you. So first of all, it's not just skeleton pirates. There is the Sea Hag's Curse, okay? So, again, thank you to Brett for writing such an excellent idea, because this is a really fun one. So he suggested that the pirates essentially collected cursed treasure. Okay, the pirate captain who had collected the treasure had kept it in an offshore place, like this little shore town, the one that we're in right now, and hidden the treasure away there because there was a girl there he was in love with, right? So he died. He was eaten by a shark, which was a fun little detail. So his crew agreed that they want to go collect the treasure. They know his treasure must have been sticking around over here in this place, in this town here, this little village. And so they go to collect it. Apparently the high magistrate for the area at the time, whenever this was, or whatever governing person was around, they saw the pirates were in town and they're like, oh snap. So they locked him up and executed him that day, right? Because piracy is a crime and crime doesn't pay. So the sea hag apparently had placed a curse on this, and again, a poem and everything. I'll read it so you can understand this chicken scratch here. But none shall prosper who take my gold, whether land or sea, it belongs to me. Spend it now or keep it hidden. To the devil ye shall be bidden. So what's interesting about all of this is it gives us a lot to sink our teeth into. Now, in terms of the skeletons that we dealt with, the idea that they're just hanging around in town, maybe this is an advanced part of the curse. Maybe this is something to do with the treasure itself, right? But we got a lot of questions to answer. So let's, start asking some of these questions, right? So I'm going to just write down a couple things that are kind of, important to consider at this point. So I'll make myself a little bit of room. Okay, so here's question number 1. Is the treasure actually cursed? Because, I'm not saying that the fact that they're skeletons doesn't imply that there's a curse here of some sort, but it could be the case that these skeletons were the wrongfully killed. You know what I mean? Like these are like revenants and they got their revenge and they just hang out here until they're dismissed. And so maybe this is the crew that we killed in the last one. I know that we had a lot more potential in the town, but maybe, we can reason it. So let's roll on our oracle and we'll see what we get, okay? So, again, we'll roll on our usual d6 oracle, okay? Okay, so our d6, that would be yes and. So is this treasure cursed itself? Yes and. I'm going to say yes, it's cursed, and it's probably also trapped. Which I know sounds kind of redundant, but I'd like to think that maybe they even trapped the treasure chest so that way, even when it's opened, it's still cursed on the inside, which is not good. This is some not so good quality treasure. So yes, it's trapped too. Okay, so next question. And this one's kind of open-ended. So where's the treasure? So I'm thinking that the way we can approach this is it's kind of a 50-50 kind of deal. Either these pirates buried the treasure somewhere, right? Like in the wilderness, or there is something of like a dungeonous location where it was brought to the depths of the place and left there thinking that nobody would go in and go get it, right? Alternatively, we could say that it's hidden inside of a building with something of a riddle. So why don't we say that those are the 3 options that we've got, okay? So of our 3 choices, we'll say that there is a dungeon, a dig, and a riddle. Okay, so we'll roll a d3 and see what we get. 4, so it is buried somewhere in the ground, okay? So where it's buried, I guess what we can do is we can measure about how far away it is. Why don't we measure this on a d3 again? We'll say that 1 will be close, 2 will be a medium distance or a reasonable distance, like within a day, and 3 will be far away. So that's another 2, so it's about a day away. Okay, so in terms of our hex map, it's probably just about 1 hex over, which is fair, right? Okay, so with this in mind, I'm trying to think what other sort of questions we have. Because we know the treasure is cursed. We know that I guess we could ask questions about the general curse of the treasure. And I'm thinking that, the soul of anybody who interacts with the treasure probably belongs to the hag once they've, pilfered the treasure itself. So I'm guessing that maybe when these guys were hanged, their soulless bodies came back from the dead to come get these people. And maybe that's just the general evil nature of the hag, but I think that makes sense. So those who do take the treasure are cursed to rise as undead when they're inevitably killed. So, okay. Cool. Okay, so we probably want to jot that down. So the curse, they rise as undead when they die. Cool. Which I'm sure might have some implications when our party perhaps reach the treasure and then, inevitably die, because that's something we're pretty good at in this campaign. So, next question I have, does somebody have a treasure map? Which, this feels like I'm going to check real quick in the book just to see if skeletons themselves, what kind of treasure they might have to offer us. Ooh, don't mind that. So let's see, skeletons. So skeletons, funny how that opened right up. It says treasure type, none. Interesting. Okay, so yeah, I guess the treasure map might be the only kind of treasure we can get out of these guys. So let's go ahead and let's roll again on the Oracle. With a 4, that is no, but. No, but. Interesting. Okay, so let's give this a think. So no, but but who would have a map? Because these guys, the party, aren't going to have any idea that any of this is the way it is. They just bumbled into town, got attacked by a bunch of skeletons. So no, but maybe there's some way of getting that information, some sort of sneaky, tricky way of getting that. Now, the first things that come to mind for me when I'm just spitballing here is that maybe, I don't know, maybe there's some sort of like fern or like kelp or something that's wrapped up in the bones of one of the skeletons, and that gives the party the idea of like some special place where that grows. But again, it feels like such a long shot. Just because there's a thing growing there, we're sort of implying that the party would know that there's a treasure at all. I'm thinking another way we could do this is if there was sort of like a wanted poster or something like that hanging off the walls of this place. If the curse was pretty immediate, like we said, that they probably wouldn't have time to tear down the wanted poster on the wall. So I'm thinking maybe, just maybe, when the party are staying here, there's a chance that they can see that there is like some sort of a wanted poster on the wall. And, also, I think about it, the treasure belonged to the hag, so it's not like the people of the town are like looking to get back their wealth. But then again, if the pirates are hiding all their stuff out in the wilderness in the same general location, then it could be said that they had treasure that was actually pilfered from the people here and from other traders. So it's not just the treasure of the hag, but there's additional treasure hidden away. So maybe, okay, I think that's a reasonable thing we can say, is that the party find old wanted posters. And these wanted posters will probably detail that there are brigands who have been like kind of haunting the area of town. Not haunting in that sense of like skeletons, but haunting as in, like they come by here and they just plague the region, right? So in an interesting way, it seems like we'll get to the point that we're going to be able to find this treasure potentially, but almost in a diagonal kind of way, where we circumvent the whole curse and we instead just find out that there were pirates at one point who lived here and were hiding treasure out in the wilderness. So, okay, well, that makes for an interesting little conundrum here. So I guess the wanted poster itself would probably detail specifically that there were brigands who were wanted under a certain captain. The captain was sort of in this general area, and he died of a shark attack. Very good. But I imagine they looked for him and his crew, and I imagine they detailed what they were known for, which is probably for, stealing, murder, all that fun stuff, and that the treasure was still hidden, and that there's a promise of reward for relocating these stolen goods from the various trade ships that had been in the area. So the party know that there at least were pirates in this town at one point, and that there was treasure at some point left somewhere around here. And I think that's a good enough bit of breadcrumbs to give the party to say that there's at least this quest kind of forming in the midst. But I don't think the party have enough to really go off of here. So let's start talking about the party again. Okay. So now we're in a weird kind of position because the party are currently in the tavern in this broken down, haunted little hamlet. The party at this point could arguably try to stay the night here, maybe reinforce the walls and everything and the doors and the windows. But unfortunately, that seems like a very dangerous idea, and I don't know that the party would be super gung-ho about it, right? Alternatively, the party could also head to the shoreline and wait in the morning for the fishermen to show up to come pick them up. If they did that, they would have to travel through the night and run the risk of an encounter, right? And right now they'd be considered exhausted, so they'd take the -2 penalty, and that would be brutal if we ran into something. We're already wounded as it is, but do we really feel like it would make sense for them to stay in this village? It's kind of hard to say. So, another crossroads where I guess we have to rely on the Oracle again. So let's go to the Oracle, and we'll see what the party's going to do. Okay. So, looking at her sheets, again, like I said, like even Todrick only has the 1 hit point left. You know, Tamond is at 4 out of 4 of his 4 out of 8 hit points, and Zion has 3 of 6. So, again, we're not in a great position to be holding our ground one way or the other. So I guess we should probably check out what the Oracle says about us leaving. So, will the party head to the shore and spend the night on the beach rather than staying in the town? I got a 1. So yes, but. So yes, they will head to the beach, but. Oh, well, you know what? We have our party members left behind. So I'm thinking maybe what we'll do is we'll say, yes, they will head out, but they're not going to take the rest of the party members with them for like a proper burial or anything. And they'll probably just loot the bodies and head out of there, right? You know, I'm not trying to be that guy and go just, min-maxing and taking all the goodies I can get. But I think that it makes sense that we would take at least the torches and rations from our good pal here, from Barine, and we'd leave Joel behind as well. It's not a great feeling, but survival is survival, and I think this is probably the most sensible method for these people to keep themselves together. So we'll just real quickly have Todrick, our evil dwarf friend here, pick up the rations that were left behind, as well as a few of those torches. So he quickly bumps up to 5 rations and 6 torches. He already has oil, but you know how it goes. Okay, so we'll leave Barine, we'll leave Joel, we'll feel really bad about it, and we'll run away. So, now, a refresher on the map, right here. We are only about 1 hex away, but I do believe this still demands a random encounter check. Okay? And as a real quick refresher, random encounters for this region are, unfortunately, since we're in the forest chances are 2 and 6. Okay? And we're going to be traveling with torches out, with lantern. You know what? I'll even go ahead and mark that off. Todrick's definitely going to get his lantern out, and he's going to help illuminate the way so that we can get out of here ASAP. And we'll keep it nice and bright for the party. So the party rush out of town, and they leave behind Marine's body and Joel's body, and they vow to maybe come back here someday and try to take care of this issue. They have no idea what the heck is going on here, but they just know that they're probably not going to survive if they stick around here. So we're going to roll for a random encounter as they run out of here and run through the forest, spending the full night to do this, trudging at full speed to get to the beach. I got a 2. So, yep, we got ourselves a random encounter. Okay, so it's not great, but this is old school, man. And unfortunately, running through the wilderness is a real tough gig when we're considering random encounters. As you all know, I'm sure, random encounters in the wilderness are usually harder, much harder, than in a dungeonous environment. So we might run into something real nasty. So let's roll on our forest table right here. We're going to need a D8 and a D20 and a whole bunch of luck. So on the 8 we got a 3, which is a flyer. Interesting. And for the flyer table, it's on table 1. Okay, and let's see what we get on our 20. A 9. So a 9 is a nightmare. Whew. Interesting. Very, very interesting. Let's quickly read up on our nightmare, because now I know that they can be one of those deceptively difficult things to fight, but considering the intelligence of the nightmare, if there are multiple of them that we encounter, this might be a... Yeah, see, so there's only one that we can possibly encounter. Here, I'll even hold it up for you guys. I'll be a nice guy. So we only have one potential to encounter, right? No treasure, they're chaotic. Intelligent demonic horses with glowing red eyes, flaming nostrils and hooves like smoldering embers. So as far as things go, they are a mean critter. They are 6 hit dice. Burning smoke. They breathe out a choking cloud of burning smoke. Anyone in melee with the nightmare must save versus poison or suffer an additional -2 to attack and damage. Okay. The steed sometimes act as a steed for a powerful undead, which, there's... as awesome as it sounds to be dealing with evil undead knights and stuff, let's just roll real quick to see surprise, right? Because there's a chance that the party don't even have to encounter this guy. That's really what I'm praying for. So because we're traveling with our good old friend Tammond in the wilderness, I'm imagining that even though we're running with our lantern, we're finding ways to run under the tree cover. So surprise attack, awareness, only surprised on a 1. Okay, so only rolling a 1 for the party will they be surprised. 4, thank God. I was scared for a second there. So they're not going to be surprised. But the question is if the nightmare will be surprised. The nightmare will be surprised on a 1 and 2. So, if we get a 2 or a 1, the nightmare is not even going to notice the party. Party are going to see it. They're going to duck away and hide because, who the hell wants to fight a flaming demonic horse, right? So, let's roll. On our D6, I got a 6. So, unfortunately, it is not surprised, okay? But we can still potentially salvage this with our reaction. So again, Zion being the most charismatic in the party with a total modifier of a +1, we're going to roll the d6s, and I suppose we'll add 1, and we'll see what we can possibly get. Because this thing is evil, I don't think it's really on the hunt for these guys. I think it's probably just trudging through, and they happen to be in the way. So the idea that this thing's just going to come down and harass them seems pretty likely. But then again, I don't know. We'll roll with the +1 and we'll see what we get. The first die, I got a 3, not bad. And a 6. Okay. This is... So you can tell by my excitement that I know we're going to die if we actually had to fight this thing. So luckily for us, 10 implies indifferent or uninterested. So as the party are running through the forest and hoping that the undead aren't following them, they make it through some of the tree cover, and as we get to a certain point, Tammond touches Todrick on his arm and he says, "Listen, Todrick, turn out the lantern. I feel like I hear something on the wind." And as they turn out the lantern light, they sit there, and as the leaves are rustling in the breeze out here on this coastal area over by the forest, you can hear in the distance the sound of the coughing, choking noise of the snort of the horse in the distance. And as the party cling together, and they duck under one of the larger oak trees and look up to the sky above, they can hear the sound of the clapping of the hooves on the sky, as if cracking little bits of thunder as it soars through the air. And as it goes veering by the party, probably dips through the tree cover and ignites a bunch of leaves, and they catch on fire as the thing rustles by. The thing gnashes at them quickly on its way, but continues through, menacing but disinterested. The party cling to the tree, and wince under the heat and the smoke, probably coughing as the thing goes by. And as it trudges back up into the air and keeps on its way, the party realize just how close they were to imminent doom. Tamond looks to Todrick. Todrick looks back at them, and Zion probably turns to them and says, "We don't have much time. Let's just get to the shore, and we'll figure out what we're going to do in the morning." The party continue their run and make it all the way over to the coast. And in the morning, where I guess at this point, once they reach the coast, they just sit there in the dead of night in the cold, waiting with the moonlight above, as they hope and pray that that giant nightmare doesn't come back. And as they sit there, holding themselves, as the morning light comes in, they can see the form of the boat, the fisherman's boat coming by in the coastline. So naturally, they do everything they can to try to hail him over, and he comes over to pick them up. Cool. Okay, so let's roll a random encounter now, as the party on the boat are heading back to the village of Validar. Now, I know that there are some weird rules for water travel, and I know that there's specific rules for traveling in water for random encounters, but I believe the 3, we are good. And so the party make it back on their little fisherman's vessel and pull up into Validar. It's all too apparent to our fisherman friend here that the party had run into something of a very, very horrible situation. Naturally, part of the party's dead, so clearly something bad had happened. Now, here's my question. As an old fisherman, our friend the NPC, which I definitely remember his name, obviously his name was Ferd, and I definitely didn't forget that. But Ferd, there's a chance, I imagine, as a salty old fisherman, that maybe he knows some weird lore from the area that he's picked up through the tales of people who've been here. Maybe somehow, through some weird way, he's picked up a tale of this. I'm going to say there's a 10% chance that somehow Ferd has caught word of this old strange legend of the pirate treasure, right? So on double zeros, we know there's a rumor about this. Okay, I got double zeros. Okay, so when the party explained, that's so, of course we got double zeros. Of course. So naturally, Ferd has the word on this rumor. So when the party meet up with Ferd and they look, Tamond the ranger, Todrick the dwarf, and Zion the sneak, they all together look disheveled. They look mortified. They saw their friends get mutilated by the skeletons and barely got out with their lives. They encountered the nightmare. And, seeing him, they're all so happy to be safe. But when they explained the tale of what happened to Breen and Joel, they explained the strange hamlet that they wandered into and the undead that were, there and protected the place. Ferd looks like he's seen a ghost, because he says, "I heard a story about a place like that. An old village, an old pirate's tale. They said that there was treasure buried out there in the wilderness around the old village. A village that's lost its name over time. But at this point, that treasure's still likely out there." Now, here's my question. Does Ferd know that the treasure is cursed? Let's roll on the oracle. 3. So, yes and. So, yes, he knows it's cursed, and he knows it's cursed by a sea hag. Alright, while we're over here coming up with names that I'm definitely going to remember, let's come up with a name for the sea hag. So usually their names are weirdly like Old English, like Gertrude or something. Let's come up with a nice, slimy, gross sea haggy name. Like, how about Hack? No. Hack? Come on, man. We can come up with something better than that. How about, Daisy? Daisy? That doesn't sound cool either. It sounds like Daisy. That's not intimidating. How about, yeah, right, get F. Gethel. Yeah, Gethel. And then let's come up with something gross. Gethel, something horrible. Well, I guess Gethel the Horrid. Okay, that works for me. So Gethel the Horrid is the rumor. Ferd knows that there's a curse from an old sea hag on the treasure, so he tells him, he says, yeah. but they said that the treasure itself is cursed. You see, there's an old rumor of a hag who lives off the coast. Her name is Gethel the Horrid. She brings in storms, and she calls to the sailors of lonely vessels, and they pull into her rocky port and get all hung up on the rocks and the coral and everything, and the boats are all tied up, and you don't want to know what she does to them. From what people have said, survivors from her wrecks, they say that she is a horrible beast. And those pirates had stolen her treasure somehow, some way, and she put a horrible curse on them. Well, at least on the treasure. And those fools tried to take that treasure for themselves. And I guess you know what happened to them. So naturally, as the silence befalls the party, they sit there and look back at him, and they consider for a second if this is the sort of thing that's worth diving into. Personally, I don't think this is worth the party's trouble right now. The treasure's cursed, so what are they going to do? Remove curse on this? None of them are at a point where they can do that. What are they going to do? Hunt down Gethel the Horrid? Not going to do that. Horrible, horrible idea. So perhaps we'll just let this be a quest hook for now. We'll leave it there. I know it's kind of a buzzkill to take something cool like the quest and do this to it, but I think the dice have put us into a bit of a corner. So unfortunately, where we are right now, we're going to have to leave Gethel the Horrid and her cursed treasure, and we'll just leave that where it is. The party arrive in Valley Dar later that day. I imagine it's probably a foggy, gloomy kind of day, one that really doesn't lift the mood. The party coming back, and they can tell that the town, the villagers here, obviously have seen something of a reputation with this party. Every time they come back, there's less people, and it's terrible. It's a horrid sight to see, and the people don't obviously want to travel with the party. So I imagine there will be a little bit of a difficult time for the party to try to take on a new member or bring somebody else into the fold. But because of the party's current health and their current standing, I think that we do need to try to at least, do what we can with the Elvish Tower here and try to make up some time to heal for the party, because they're not doing well. So I think that what we'll do is we'll just say that the party stay here for a good 3 days, okay? And in that time, they'll heal double the rate, so they'll get 6 hit points back, and the party will be fully rested at this point. I think in the span of 3 days, we are going to try to hire a new person to the party. Now, again, the rules for hiring retainers are kind of interesting, where availability depends on the area. There's bad reputation gives certain modifiers, and we're going to have to give a good offer on the treasure. So I think that we'll just offer whoever we hire on. We're probably going to look for at least one adventurer to join the party. So, let's get into that process. Okay, so because our party have a terrible reputation, we're going to give them a -2 from the get-go, okay? Now, we're going to say Zion will probably be the person to talk to them because she's got a +1 to her charisma. The party are going to offer a fair rate of at least 1/4 of whatever treasure they uncover. They're going exploring, so 1/4 of whatever they get. I think that's a fair enough offer. So I think that'll at least even us out to a 0. Zion's a friendly face. The party do have some good reputation in the town of having done good things, but at a cost, and they're offering a good amount. So we'll roll 2d6, and we'll see what we get for an offer. We'll see, you know what, let's roll, I think that there's probably not too many people here, so let's do evens or odds. Evens, there's 2 people at the tavern that could be hired, and odds, there's 1. So odds, so there's 1 single person here in the 3 days that we're checking. So let's see what we get for our offer being accepted or refused. Okay, so we got a 9 even, which says that the offer will be accepted. Okay, so with an accepted offer, let's see who's willing to join us. Shoot. Okay, so let's get making another character, I guess. I kind of wasn't expecting to do this. Well, I guess I kind of was. When we're killing characters all the time, I guess that's what we get. So we'll just roll our stats down the line. Probably helps if I have a 3rd d6. Sometimes I do miss being able to roll multiple dice and getting some real spanking numbers, but I think that one of the nice things with an old school game like this is that the stats really don't make as much of an impact. They definitely do. When they're good, they're good. And 6, for instance, is not good. Oh my gosh. 2 6s is not good. Oh, 3 6s is not good. A 13. 12. And a 13. I'm going to scrap this one. I think that these stats just kind of seem a little, I don't know, not really favorable for a party member. 3 6s is pretty rough. Okay, so we'll start off with an 8. Like an 8's not terrible, that -1, but a -2 to all physical stats is pretty rough. So here we go to 13. Okay, here we got our 7. Again, not great. Ooh, 17. Holy moly. Okay, and a 10. One more number. Let's hope for another good one. 13. Another +1 to charisma. Okay, so right here. Oh, sorry, I probably want to adjust this. So this is dexterity, which is pretty sweet. And then we've got our wisdom of a 7, which is not great, but I can live with that. Intelligence of a 13 makes me feel like maybe we've got another wizardly individual on our hands. The strength of 8, again, whatever, -1. It's not the worst, but certainly not happy. A con that's neutral, I can live with that. No penalty to health, not bad. And then our 13 to charisma gives us a +1. So, all things considered, got a bit of an interesting character on our hands. Now, again, I don't want to go picking things just based on what the party needs. But I'm looking at this character and I'm like, an 8 in strength does not scream fighter, right? But then again, an 8 in strength only implies a -1 to attack rolls and a -1 to damage. Terrible, not the best thing ever. Here's what I'm thinking. Because that 17 in dexterity is pretty sweet. I could imagine us picking up another sort of ranged character or another thief kind of character. But at the same time, I'm like, maybe that's not the best thing for the party right now, because we already have Zion, and Zion's doing fine. That 13 in intelligence does lend to a sort of wizardly character, and the 13 in charisma isn't bad. So, maybe I'm just a sucker for a wizardly character, but why don't we hire on another mage? Let's give this a shot. We could do an illusionist. Let's consider this. So, compared to a mage, or a magic user that is, an illusionist isn't too far off. Most of their illusion magic is pretty sweet, all things considered, and we do get pretty much the same spell progression. So why don't we just, for flavor's sake and not just because I love illusionists, let's make this person an illusionist. I can't really remember the full dice system I had for creating characters, so I'm going to go ahead and just roll a d6. Evens will have a woman, and odds will have a man. Got a 1, so it's a guy. Interesting. Let's see. So he's a man. Let's roll for his alignment. We'll say on 1 through 4, it's 1, 2, 3, it'll be good. A 4 or 5 will be neutral, and a 6 will be evil. Well, another evil character joins the party, and then we'll all just roll. 1 to 2 is lawful, 3 to 4 is neutral, and 5 to 6 is chaotic. So a chaotic evil illusionist joins the party. Very good. His name, I like having mages who have titles, but I feel like because he's just an illusionist of such a low level, that being 1, he wouldn't have a title. So his name, how about his name will be, it's got to be something that's memorable. So maybe his name will be, I like ID. Idalar the illusionist? Alliteration makes it easier. So Idalar. Okay, and he's chaotic evil, so he's kind of a bastard. And then let's go ahead and roll up his spell, because he's allowed to use daggers. He has a spell book too. And illusion magic, again, he's basically a magician. So he does, the magical research, he's got his spell book, and he starts off with 1 spell. So, okay. So I'll go ahead and I'll quickly roll up what his new spell is, the 1 spell that he gets. And again, being level 1, he's only going to get 1 first level spell. So let's go ahead and see what we got. As far as illusionist spells, we got a D12. Okay. I hope this one's legible enough for you guys. You know what? I'll get a better one. Cool. Okay. Here we go. A 2. All right. I don't know the list off the top of my head. So 2 is Chromatic Orb. Fun. Okay. Chromatic Orb is a cool one for those who don't know. It's a spell that kind of grows with the caster so long as they're able to secure a certain kind of gemstone. And just because I don't want to be completely without any hope for this character, we're going to say that he does start off with the necessary gem for what he's going to be casting. So in our case, as a level 1, we're going to be casting with quartz. So he's going to have a hunk of quartz worth at least 10 gold pieces, which is not too much. And this has the effect of light. It deals 1d4 damage. So the initial use of the spell, it says if a target fails a saving throw versus spells, it's surrounded by light in a 15-foot radius for 1d4 rounds. In low light conditions, attacks made against the target gain a +2 bonus. Any attempts at stealth or surprise again on the target's part may be nullified. You see why I love an illusionist. That's so cool. Not only a d4 damage is whatever, but that +2 on attacks versus it, again, fighting that nightmare would have been a nightmare. But having +2 on attacks would have compensated for our exhaustion. Granted, it's still a spell save, so, a lot of things are going to have a chance to get out of it, but not a good chance. Cool. All right, so I'll write that down on the character sheet, and we'll get back to adventuring. All right, so I filled out all of our stuff, which unfortunately it's not great. We did get a good bit of money, so we do have 83 gold pieces left over so that we can spread the wealth as we need to and buy things that we might need for the party. As far as our group, as far as paper, the record keeping goes, I didn't roll for his HP yet. But because he's level 1, he maxes out with 4 HP, which is not great, but it's definitely better than having to roll it and getting a potential 1. So everybody else was able to heal up, which is great. We love that for them. And in the time that we've been here in town, our party are going to potentially use some of our new cash cow's money. We do have a bit for rations, but I don't know. After a little record keeping here, let's see. It seems like we have no rations left for our ranger. We've got a week's worth of rations for Idalar, the new illusionist. Zion has 2 rations. And okay, Todrick has 5. So I think we could probably benefit from picking up an additional week's worth of rations since we're going to be heading out and going exploring. So as far as rations go, it looks like a week's worth of rations will probably run us. A week of rations will be 5 gold pieces. So you know what? Let's buy 2. Again, we've got a new person in our party who, for a chaotic evil character, is awfully generous right now. So maybe this will be his sort of way of saying that the party owe him 1. So with 14 to go around, I think what we'll do is we'll just have some of the stronger characters carry more than others. So 7 rations for our friend Tamond. We'll get everybody up to 7. So 5 rations for you, which leaves 2 left behind for our good buddy Todrick. And I believe that should round us all out to 7. Yep, okay, so we have exactly 7 days of travel we're allowed right now. Assuming we don't toss rations to all the all the critters we might meet along the way. Okay, cool. Let's get adventuring. Okay, interesting. So I'm going to roll for the weather. The first day of weather when the party are in town, I got a thunderstorm, I got a clear day for the next one, and for the last one, I got another clear day. Okay, I can live with that. But since our party are going to be jumping out on the boat, and we're going to be hopping out there. I just want to make sure we're in the right season because I don't want to go screwing us over on the... good. The season is bearing, and it is waning, which means that it's the second half of spring. Okay, so it'll probably be a bit warmer. It's not exactly summer yet, but we're getting there. Okay, so for the day of travel that we're leaping into, it's going to be a high of 45 degrees. My goodness, and it's raining. Well, that's a total bummer. So the party hop on the boat with Ferd and make their way back to the other side of the coast. Again, I'm going to toss up a little picture of the map just to show where we're bumping out, and then we're going to see where we're going to be traveling to. Before we do that, let's roll for a random encounter in the forest. 5. No random encounter. I can live with that. Okay, now again, as far as our overall movement as a party goes, Todrick, I believe, is our slowest character here, which means I believe he can only move 6 miles in a day, which means we're moving at a snail's pace. My goodness me. Okay. That is not good. You know, travel is one of those things in this game that it's good when you've got it figured out, but boy howdy, as soon as you run into an issue where you don't have the ability to travel comfortably, you really do get screwed a bit, you know? Especially when you consider how like overland travel kind of shifts and changes depending on where you're traveling. Now, us not having roads and moving through the forest means that we're going to be traveling at quite the slow rate. Which, again, not great. Yeah, we move 33% slower. Okay. So, let's see where we're going on our map. Now, I think that since last time we had traveled in and we went sort of north, west, west, northwest, I think maybe this time we can try to go south below that pirate village that we were dealing with before. As like we've been doing before, I'm going to roll to see on our little table here in the Hexplore guide. If we're going to continue in a forested region or if we're going to branch off into something else. So let's roll that real quick. We got a d20 and a d8 because obviously if we get a 1 on our d8, we're going to run into something special on the map. So let's see what we got. Okay, so forest, it's going to maintain more forest. Okay, cool. I can live with that. And because we got a 6, it's nothing fancy. Again, not terrible. I can live with that. I feel like it's definitely better to be in a situation where there's no danger, right? So we've got one more tile that we can enter in before the end of the first day here of travel. So, let's see. There is a mountain that we're kind of encroaching on, so I'm gonna roll based on the mountain tile to see if the mountain turns into something else. So a 5 and a 5. So no, as they move farther south, we're gonna run into a mountain, and that mountain is going to remain, well, if you can imagine this, a mountain. Okay, and so the party are gonna spend the night here, bringing us to our first day of travel. Now that we're in the mountains, our chances of running into a random encounter have changed. Unfortunately, random encounters in the mountains, if memory serves, are, 3 and 6. So let's see what we got. 4. We are safe. I love that. Okay, and then I'm going to roll real quick for our good buddy Tammond, because he does have a chance of getting us food while we're out here. I know we've got a bunch of trail rations, but any chance I can get to save us a little bit, and I will take it. So, in the case of foraging, we find food on a 2 and 6. So, let's see what we got. 2 and 6. A 1. Interesting. Okay, cool. So we're able to forage for food, and that means we can find food for 1d6 humans. 3. So 3 of the 4 people in the party are able to eat. So that's pretty sweet. So right now we've eaten 5 rations in total for the party. Okay. Sure, I'll denote that real quick. Okay, so no random counter. We found food. What could go wrong now? He says. So now that we're entering mountains, mountains are going to slow our travel down quite a bit, 50% slower. So at this point, we're only going to be able to enter the next mountainous tile, just because it's going to take so much of our traveling pace to be able to do it. So let's go ahead and why don't we define our coast a little bit more? We're going to move south on our mountains and see what we can find. So we'll roll a D8 and a D20. Okay, ooh, interesting. So 12 means that this will actually turn into hills. Okay, and we're kind of already locked in with our coastline. So I can draw that in too. And that'll be good. You know, honestly, I'm not really mad with how this is all turning out right here. So I'm going to go ahead. Okay, so continuing with our procedural, we move on to that day. Now that we're up in the mountains, it might make it a lot more difficult for us to get food. Ooh, I forgot to roll for the weather. I'm going to assume that the chances of us getting terrible weather in that last bit were pretty slim, but just so that I can... Yeah, it was cloudy. And now for this next day, it's clear. Clear skies. Okay, so no penalties on our travel for this day. We'll roll another random encounter check just to see if we got anything for hills. It's 2 and 6. Ooh. You know, just when I thought we were getting kind of lucky with this. All right, we'll roll a d6 to see if we get any food. 6, so no food. So that means that our current food tracker goes up, and now we're at 9 rations. Okay, and yeah, I mean, I guess without further ado, let's roll this random encounter up, shall we? Let's see what we got. So, as far as our table is concerned, you know, something about the procedural nature of this game, it really does, it's kind of like, I don't know, it's just kind of nice in a weird sense to be able to do this procedurally and get the randomness that we get out of it. So it's a D8 and a D20. So a 5 and a 4. So 5 gives us humanoid. Okay, not mad about that. And that's on table B. So table B, humanoid. And we got a 4 for the D20. So it's a frost giant. Remember that part where I said that I liked the the randomness of things? Are you kidding me? Frost giants? There's frost giants hiding in the hills? Oy vey. Alright, well, I'm not going to fight the game. It'd be hard to fight the book. Plus, I spent pretty good money on it, so... Oh, boy. Okay. So, let's see what we get. Can you hear the, the pain in my voice? Okay, so our 18-foot tall humanoids with pale skin and pale hair, yellow or blue hued. They wear furs or iron armor. Males have long beards. They are chaotic, which, you know, obviously. Oftentimes they have castles high up in snowy mountains. So, maybe that's a thing. Okay, and randomly encountered, there will be 1d4 out here in the wild. So let's roll that real quick. And pray for a 1. Pray for a 1. Oh, a 3. Oy vey. Alright, so let's see if we actually get spotted. So again, because of our ranger, we spot on, we're only taken by surprise on a 1. Very good. Maybe they'll be surprised too. They'll be surprised on a 1 or a 2. Of course. Alright, now we'll roll for our good old reaction. And again, maybe we'll get high numbers this time. We'll get the +1. And yeah, let's hope for the best. I got a 6 and a 1. That gives us an 8 total. Okay, so an 8 on our reaction. Means that we have to roll again. How exciting. Oh gosh, an 8 again. 7 means roll again. 7, 8 means roll again. Ooh, 6 is roll again. Whoa! Intriguing. This happened to us once before. Okay. So they'll be friendly or helpful. How the hell are we going to figure this one? So let's think about frost giants. Now, frost giants, it says that they come from the mountains. right? They're immune to cold-based attacks. They live high up in snowy mountains. Why? How could we justify them being friendly? I imagine the party were just sort of camping out in the hills, and the frost giants came upon them, saw them. All three of these frost giants come bumbling by, and it said that there's a 20% chance of them having guardians. Oh boy, I got a 10. So yeah, there's wolves. So, intriguing. And we get 6d6 wolves. So that's 10 wolves. And another, so 19 wolves in retinue with this group. So I'm guessing that, here's what I'll say. This is kind of interesting. So the party are setting up their little, they're breaking down their campsite in the morning. They're sitting there, they're having a discussion. I'm imagining that because Idalar and Todrick are evil, they probably have a certain kinship where they both have a cruel sort of mentality about the world. The two of them are having their own conversation about evil stuff. And Tamond and Zion are probably talking about the next day's trap. Tamond is obviously the leader in the sense of travel, but Zion's sort of the leader in the sense of like the team spirit, right? So those two are having their own conversation, and those other two are having their conversation. They're probably all locked into things. Somebody spills something on the fire, brings up a bunch of smoke, and the two groups kind of blame each other for the ruckus here. Now, neither of them notice as a pack of wolves slowly come strolling around the campsite. And as they do, the party are kind of caught off guard by them. I would say kind of, because there's 19 of these wolves. And I imagine what happens is the party sort of stand there, looked horrified. But Tamond, being a ranger and knowing that the wolves are probably looking for food or looking to just size them up, Tamond sort of knows to just stand his ground, don't look threatening, don't move quickly, and just sort of stare back at them. Treat them, with the respect they deserve as the predators that they are. And I imagine that the wolves probably back off a little bit. They keep circling, and one of the frost giants comes booming into camp. Now the party, having stood there quietly to begin with, and just with the wolves, probably see the giant and imagine they're about to be eaten, or worse. And so as they stand there and wait, the frost giant notices the wolves treat them with respect. They see Tamond's body and see his posture and his overall bravery in the face of his wolves, and he probably looks to him with a certain level of reverence and sees this tiny little human out here and says something to the effect of, well, I guess he doesn't say it because he's a giant and doesn't speak the common tongue as far as I know, but he sort of, crosses his arms and chortles and looks down at them for being so brave, just shakes his head and probably looks around and, I don't know, maybe surveying the landscape or the way that he knows where they are. He probably, I don't know. I mean, it says it's friendly or helpful. I'm trying to think about what would be helpful from the giant. Maybe the giant himself offers them, interesting. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say the next time, if we, in the next traveling sequence, run into a random encounter, I'll give us a bonus to our surprise. Well, we only are surprised on a 1. So maybe what we'll do is we'll give the other group an additional +1. So whatever it is that we run into, we'll get a +1 to their surprise, meaning it'll be easier for us to surprise them because the giant warns the party that there are creatures around. I don't know what kind of creatures that is, but when we do run into them, we'll have that little bit of a bonus. Sounds fair to me. I like that. Okay, so once the giants go bumbling off back to the mountains and their wolves leave the party behind, the party breathe a sigh of relief knowing that they're not freaking dead. And in the hills, they're going to continue moving. Now, the hills obviously give us the same penalty as the forest, so we can move at least one more space. So keeping along the coastline, I imagine we're just going to kind of continue down southeast. So D8 and D8 and D20. Ooh, a crit. And a 6. Okay, so let's check what the guide says about a crit for hills. A crit for hills says that it becomes a marsh, which, ooh, how exciting. Swamp. Very good. So I'll put in our little marsh token, and I'm going to continue our coastline around it. Okay, so because we didn't get any food, we're going to have to eat more rations, so that brings us up to 13. And that brings us to our third day of travel completed. 13 rations means that we've pretty much cleared out all of our existing rations from before. So I think what we're going to do is the party's probably going to try to go north and try to go back to the boat. So that way we get all of our traveling in this area done. So since we're going to be traveling back up to where the hills were, I'm going to roll this as if it were a hill for D8, D20. So it will be, again, hills. So it's going to slow us down a bit, but we can at least travel one more space. All right, let's see if we get something fancy. Again, rolling as if it were hills. Okay, so nothing fancy. And we got one more hill to go. So now that we're in hills, I figure it's fair. We roll for our random encounter here on our fourth day. I'll go ahead and mark that. We'll see. Why don't we roll for food first? Got a 4, so no, we did not find any food. Now we'll roll for random encounter in the hills. There's a 2 in 6 chance. 5. Cool. So nothing terrible. I'm going to double check the weather just to make sure I didn't... I keep forgetting about the weather. How could I forget about the weather? We got windy. Okay, so the next day's worth of travel. We're going to go ahead. We've got clear skies. Okay, as we move into 5th day of travel, we'll roll for random encounters. 4, well, yeah, none of these give us a 4. We are traveling back, so let's roll to see if we see anything funky as we're going back to the forest in the south here. Random encounter. Oh yeah, 4, right. Don't worry about it. So we did that, and rolled to see if we can catch any food. 2, that means we get enough food for 1d6 people. 2 people, so we get 2 less rations than we need, so that goes up to 15 on the 5th day. Not bad, not bad. And yeah, okay. So the party are able to travel the next 2, and by the end of the day, we reach the coastline. Excellent. Perfect. Okay, so then we get on the boat with Ferd, and we make our way back. So, very good. So why don't we meet me back at the camera? So, our party just spent a lot of time traveling. They just got back, and they are sitting pretty back at Valley Dar. This probably did something good for the reputation, because the party are able to get back to town and say that they ran into frost giants, and they survived. They scouted out quite a lot of the hills to the west, and party did not find anything super fancy or special, which leaves us on sort of a kind of a weird cliff where we know we have to continue traveling farther west or east if we'd like to maybe get a little cheeky and do that and see what maybe is out there. I guess next time we'll be able to figure that out. But as of right now, we're at this interesting point where we're going to start finding something in the very near future. We've got that quest lined up for the pirate treasure and the hag, and I think we're at a very interesting point where our map is starting to really take shape, and there's a lot of questions to be answered about things like, why the nightmares out there? These frost giants, are they like, is there a castle somewhere where they all congregate? And if so, I mean, we're on friendly terms with them, at least that group. So who knows what kind of hijinks we could get into with that. But as always, I thank you for watching the video, and I appreciate all the comments that I'm getting and everybody's input on stuff. So I guess for the next episode, why don't we pick? We could either travel, I'm going to show the map right here. We could either travel to the west and continue out past those mountains we were just exploring, past the village with the pirate skeletons, or we could travel farther east, where we could travel past the Keep of Kagramar, where we initially dealt with our giant friend there. So, yeah, write down in the comments below what you think we should do. And until next time, I hope you all have a great time. Again, thank you for watching. I'll see you later.